Hey everybody, this is Dr. Ben Pearl. I am here with Casey Boutiette, and he is a legendary Olympic, four-time Olympian, I should say. But he's had kind of three lives, or maybe a cat with nine lives. I haven't gotten into all the layers, but the main ones I know, he started out as an inline skater, transitioned to Olympic speed skater. Somewhere along the lines, also developed taking care of his own skates, became a certified pedorthist, and does sport innovations with the shoes, cleats, etc. And now, in his, I wouldn't say his final act, but his next act, he's returning to American Ninja Warrior status. So, welcome, KC. So glad to have you. It's been taking us a while to hook up, but I'm glad to have you as a guest. And you got a big day Monday.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. It's great to be here. I gotta correct a little bit the
Yes.
pedota. I'm not a certified anything. That was Brian King, who got the founder of Rocket Seven. He's the 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 podiatrist, and he's phenomenal. And he taught me everything I know about making shoes.
But you have really become kind of an old world's craftsman with your technical ability. And I guess I don't know if you want to start with that, KC. We could, since we're here, because it's integral to you as what I call the ultimate technician, tactician to the approach to your sport, with every minuscule movement of it.
Yeah, I mean, are we talking about Rocket Seven or
Yeah, yeah. We
yeah,
can
yeah.
start there.
So back in the day when I was speed skating, it started off with inline skates, and then um, nobody really knew what where the frame should mount on the boots or anything like that. So there was a lot of toying around, and actually with Brian and his dad, who was the coach of our team, we would epoxy our boots, and then we would drill T-nuts so we could move our frames further back, because a lot of times they were too far forward and you're skating and you're falling in. And then if you look at a balance point, you want it pretty centered front to back. Anyhow, so toying with boots in the early 90s, and adjusting things, putting more carbon in places, changing the uppers. I've always been tinkering with that stuff, which brought in Rocket 7 for me. Brian took it to a whole new level. He was strictly Rocket 7, and then he shut down for a little bit, and I took it over, and it was a relatively easy transition, since I already knew how to do most of this stuff. But then there's learning about people's feet and what they need or don't need in their shoes, and that's, I've always said, like, if you go to school for 10 years to learn how to be a knee surgeon, but you've never touched a knee, I'd rather have the guy that's been watching knee surgery for 2 years, watching someone do it correctly, do the surgery on me, than someone that has the book smart. So for me, it's not being, I mean, you learn by your mistakes, you learn by talking to people. And that's how I pretty much learned how to do this whole, rigmarole.
Well, I don't know as much about your inline skating career because obviously not as quite as well publicized as what you did as a four-time Olympian. But tell us about that transition and the motivation behind it. What inspired you to take that leap? And I think you were sort of the Neil Armstrong of transitioning from inline to speed skating.
Yeah. So in 1992, I was working full time, 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. Then I went to a race on, the quad skates were pretty popular. And then when the inlines came out, I picked them up really fast. And then we had a big competition in Florida, and nobody knew if quad skates or inline skates were better. Inline skates were definitely better. So I ended up picking it up really fast and won a couple races at this event, got a sponsor, which now they're paying my way to races. I'm not getting paid, but I don't have to pay to go race. And then the winnings back then, you win a couple $100, you can win $500, $200, whatever it is, traveling around the US almost every weekend for racing. And then The following season, I got picked up by Rollerblade, the brand. And so now I'm full time, no more working, no nothing, and became national champion. Ended up winning the 100-kilometer world championships in New York City. And then after that, I'm like, okay, how am I going to get better at this? How am I going to be more dominant? So at the end of the season, I thought, well, I'm going to go try the ice, and not just to make the Olympic team or anything like that, just because they have to skate with perfect technique. And I've been tinkering with short track and whatnot. And then there's this place out in Milwaukee, Wisconsin that has a covered 400-meter track. And I was like, wow, I can go do short track, long track, anything. And, I thought of it as kind of the mecca for speed skate. I'm going to go out there and learn what I can to be better at inline. And so that was the main goal, is just go out there and get better at skating. And after a few weeks, I started picking it up pretty fast. And that's when I realized, wow, I could probably do some damage here. And I watched a video of Johan Olive Koss at a party we were at 2 weeks before trials. I took the videotape and I watched it literally 10 hours a day. And then 2 weeks later, made the Olympic team. So it was unexpected. But I really focused when I knew I kind of had a chance to do really well. That's when I stopped training, stopped my cross training. I wasn't doing weights anymore. I was only skating and doing video, just analyzing myself and watching this video to learn how to skate. Because I didn't have, I had Bob Fenn as a coach, but nothing too structured, because I was still doing my own training. But yeah, that was the only reason I tried the ice, is to get better at inlines, because I wanted to be dominant. But yeah, ended up making the team, and that kind of steered me in a different direction.
Talk to me about something that many people credit you with, the down start, and how that became something that was just repeated by at least the U.S. team.
Yeah. When we came from roller skating, quad skating, inline skating, we always started, not always, some people still stand up and do a cross and then take off. But the down start came from inline. So I tried the upstart. When I got to the ice, I tried the upstart. I tried all these things and it just wasn't working. Then I was like, man, I got to try to start like how I know, just do the down start. So I put my hand on the ice. It was a little slippery. But when I took off, I felt like I was in position. My feet were moving fast. I took off way faster, and everyone's like, whoa, what are you doing? And so I ended up, buying a glove, putting sandpaper on the fingertips. Now I can grip, and dialed it in, and everyone's like, wow. They didn't know if it was illegal or not, because you haven't, you're touching the ice and whatnot. So, but yeah, I was the first one to come over and do that. And then it takes a while for people, the younger kids are going to try it. And then, oh, I do like that. And then one or two Japanese guys tried it. A couple Canadians tried it, and then some people like it. Some people, yeah, it doesn't really matter, but in my opinion, when you're in the position ready to take off, if you're already there, rather than standing up, because you can't lean too far forward without putting too much weight on your front leg. So you're actually building lactic acid for like a 500-meter skater. That's not good. But yeah, I mean, it came from inline.
Mm-hmm. If there was, I'm sure there's many moments in your Olympic career, and some people talk about the journey up the mountain and not whatever plateau you got up to on the mountain. But what would you describe as maybe one or two of the most poignant or memorable things with your Olympic career?
Well, at the Olympics, and
Sure.
then
Yeah.
getting there was my first medal at a World Cup. It was outdoors. We were in Italy, and we could see the progression that season. It was the year before the Olympic season, and I really started to gain some momentum with training, getting more power. My VO max was really high. All these things were pretty dialed in, but I still needed to learn how to skate perfect. But my fitness was there, but the skating, and some of the power was not. And at the Fall World Cups, I was around ninth place. I mean, it was awesome. And then we went home for Winter World Cups, or winter training and U.S. championships. And that's when I started to rest and started to peak. And we went to Italy, first World Cup. I got fourth in the 5K. And the next day I got a third in the 1500, which was my first medal ever. And it was amazing. And this is 2 weeks before the World Championships over in Germany. So that was one of my most memorable time, just that first medal on the ice, and it was amazing. But at the Olympics, a lot of people don't understand when you have more than one competition at the Olympics. I mean, there's good and bad. My first race at the Olympics was the 5,000 meters, and it was more like a warm up race, to be honest. I mean, I just raced it because the 1,500 was my bread and butter. So I just raced it to get the cobwebs out, and didn't do too well. I think I was 13th or 14th, something like that. Can't remember. And then skated the 1,500. I was fifth. Not bad. I mean, considering there was a new skate that came out, the clap skate, and when I got on that thing, I went from being in the top 5 to 30th instantaneously. And then I had to work my way back up and ended up fifth at the Olympics in the 1,500, which was great. But as we moved on with the Olympics, skated the 1,000, got eighth in that. And then the 10,000 came up, skated that race. And it was one of those feelings where you could go as hard as you possibly could. And yes, I was tired. I was exhausted, but I wasn't slowing down. I wasn't dying. It was amazing because I was skating with a great skater who's he's received medals in World Cups in the 5 and 10,000, and I'm skating with him, and all of a sudden I'm dropping him, and I'm like, wow, this is great. The confidence is building. My lap times were steady, and I was ahead of the American record by at the end of the race. I ended up beating it by, I think it was 20 seconds, and I got eighth place in that race. It was my best race I've ever skated in my life. Eighth place. And people were like, wow, that was great. American record. And, but you were eighth place. I mean, why are you so, happy about that? I go, well, I couldn't go any faster. There was nothing in my way other than myself. And the other races, the 1,500, I made mistakes. The 1,000, I made mistakes. 5K didn't really, matter too much, but the 10K was phenomenal. And some people don't get that, that sometimes, I've won a lot of races in my career, but some of my best races aren't from, the ones I win. It's that type of stuff. Like in marathons, I've won over 20 marathons, and I can only recall a couple because they're special, and it's just those great races just kind of stick out. Everybody has them, and some of the races, you don't have to win to have a great event. So that's my Olympic event that was phenomenal for me. The eighth place in the 10,000 meter.
You've, I guess, had a reputation of doing things, as Frank Sinatra would say, your way. And I also, I've had Gary Hall Jr. As a podcast guest, and I kind of felt the same about him, especially just resting when he felt that he needed to rest. Not necessarily becoming the most popular guy with, who he had a very good relationship with his coaches, but I think in certain instances there would be some coaches that wanted you to do, stick with this program, and I think that sometimes that could create a little bit of friction. Um, are there any things that you would recommend to an athlete, or from drawing from your own experiences, that you would say is particularly with elite competition, on how to navigate that tightrope between having things that make you more comfortable as an athlete versus something that and the coach is looking at 8 athletes?
Yeah, when you've got a coach, everybody, you can be on the same program. Yeah, like you said, you got 8. Speed skating, you usually have 8 to 12 on the same program. It doesn't work for everybody, and that's where the coach needs to be smart. At my age, I'm more of a coach slash skater. I've always been that. After my first coach, Gerard Kempkers, I learned so much from him, and he was so mathematical about the training and everything. I didn't have to think about anything. I trusted him. The only thing I didn't trust was our weight training program the year before the Olympics. But we did it to make more power. So my opener in the 1,500 would be easier, and then I'd be able to fight at the end. Now we switched from doing 15, 20, 25, 30 repetitions where you go to failure to 2 reps, 3 reps, 4, power. That didn't work for me, so it was a total botched weight training program. And it didn't work for a lot of people. Not blaming anybody, because you have to trust, what the coaches are trying to do. But then you get to a point where you and your body, what you need. If you've been around a long time and you're like, okay, well, this worked and this didn't work, and you've got, and if you need more rest when you get older, you need to take it. But when you're younger, you don't know that. You just like, well, it's on the paper, I got to do it. And the coach has to have the knowledge to be able to look you in the eye and go, oh, you know what, you need a little rest. And you go to the body language. If someone like myself, I would always change the program in the program. Well, I would do the same training, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to use this as a hard acceleration to get up to threshold on this 45-second interval. And then, then you maintain your speed. So it's more of a hard acceleration. And then sometimes I'll take the acceleration slower, ramp into it, and then with about 15 seconds to go, be at the speed or the effort I need to be at. It just depends how I'm feeling, no, I think it's real important to be able to read the program, read your body. And someone like Gary, you've been around a long time and you get old enough, but what you could be doing is opening up a can of worms with that question. Because let's say I train with Coach B. Coach A is national team. Coach B is not national team. Coach B is an outsider. You go to the Olympics, Coach B can't go to the Olympics because he can't be on the ice. He can't be at the pool. He can't, because he doesn't have a credential that you can't get. And the federation makes it kind of difficult for those coaches to get that stuff. And it doesn't make any sense. So now you've got an athlete training with a national or Olympic team, and the coach is expecting you to do something different. I think that's wrong. That's totally wrong. It's just, and I think in speed skating, they kind of have it dialed in where, they try to help people, but you see it on a level where the national team coaches are the Olympic coaches, and that's it. And if you have outside skaters, those coaches aren't going to get credentials. Is that fair? No, it's not fair. Why would you hurt your athlete and not give them credentials to help you have a potential Olympic medalist, and you're going to create a situation for them to train with a new coach, a new situation, new system. It's not right. So the reason I'm saying that is because we're going through that in a roller skating sport right now, where if you go to trials and you get, you make the team, you get to the world championships, you don't know you don't know if you're racing that specific race until the night before. So there's no preparation whatsoever. Wrong,
right. Right.
So I get a mixed feeling about, coaches and athletes when they come together into one program, because you got, this coach and this coach. They all have the athlete's best interest, but the athlete has to know what they need to do. But now if you've got a program from or Coach B, and now Coach A is like, well, you consider this, that now you're juggling the athlete's head. They're gonna now they're split. What are you're making a problem.
Now I wanna highlight something else. I saw one of your podcasts with I guess one of your skating colleagues, and he was mentioning something that I guess you picked up on in watching some skaters that came in after you. I think that this was the situation where you uh, picked up on the outside left outside skate blade was something not dialed in the way you think it might have been optimized. Can you explain and go into a little bit of detail about, might be getting a little bit into the technical, but do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah. I can't remember which athlete or athletes I was talking about, but if you're not skating correctly and if your blades aren't set up correctly, your body can't do what it needs to do to be efficient, and in that particular situation, some inline skaters, when they come over, it's hard to get outside edges. So you have to make the skates work for you. And as soon as you can stand on one skate, and because the blades are built, they're square, they're flat on the bottom. And if you have to bend your knee out to be on that flat, or to get an outer edge, you got to bend it even further. And then your body's twisting and all that stuff. That's incorrect. And until you get certain things dialed in, which moving the blade, pitching the blade in a different angle, so your body is perfectly aligned, kind of like a cleat with cycling. Some people need wedges to bring their knee in to make it a piston. That's the same with speed skating. And when I see these athletes and I see this problem because they're not being able to glide, recover, rest, and then get on the inner edge and start to push, that glide is gone when they're going to put it down. They just set it on the inner, and it's like they're just doing this the whole time. And one of the program directors at the time, when I was telling them, man, you got to fix this problem. And they don't know how to, I don't want to say they don't know how, but his answer to that was, well, she's getting instant pressure. I go, okay, then cock the right blade in. So now they're just skating, on the inners. Why get an outer edge at all? And then he had to think about it. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. It's not the right way to skate, And then if you're in the turn, there's a lot that goes into it. But the way I look at it is that your blade, your foot, your ankle, it's all, and your knee, if that's not lined up, your hip is going to be off. And then once that's all aligned, you can skate so much more balanced and so much more efficient. So even if you have, let's say, a perfect set of boots, you put a new blade on, like you take the whole system off, put it on, and you have to adjust it side to side, you're still going to be off, even if it's, and then you get used to it and then you're good. It just takes time to adjust those things. But yeah, I do feel that, your body is a piston. Your legs are pistons. Things need to be lined up. So yeah, I look at things so technical, and if you don't fix it, because back in my day when we didn't have the clap skates, I had to solder my blades in place. I had to take them and burn them and pop them off, put them in the position I want, solder them in that place. Just because if I didn't, my knee would pop out and I wouldn't get a good outer edge. There's a lot of little tricks.
Yep. So with that same sort of sense of flair you've had with adjustments, let's now get into your latest gig, the American Ninja Warrior. You've done that on both as an athlete and as a designer. Which do you want to talk about first?
Let's do the athlete stuff.
Yeah.
So I've been on the show 3 times. This will be my 4th. And after my last season, I went in and got shoulder surgery on, I did the right one. 2 months later, did the left because they were both blown. And I'm pretty sure it was on my first day of training. Couldn't, there's no sign at the sign-in sheet that says old guys that can't do pull-ups don't swing from bars. And so I'm swinging and I'm grabbing, I'm trying to do all this stuff, and it was great. It was fun. But man, I damaged myself. I'm 100% sure it was the first day. It hurt so bad in the shoulders, and every pull I was doing, it was just agonizing. I learned to deal with it. And then the next season, or after a year, I was like, yeah, let's try to get on this show. I get on the show. I do okay, but shoulders are hurting. So I do another season. I'm like, man, I really got to do something about the shoulders. And then I decided, okay, after this season, I'm going to go in and get shoulders surgery on both shoulders, take a year off, not a year off, but skip a season and then come back. And yeah, it helped quite a bit. But that next season for American Ninja Warrior, they ended up shooting 2 seasons back to back. So now I'm like, it's going to be 3 years before I'm going to be able to compete again. So I lost motivation, didn't even train, didn't do anything. I was riding the bike a little bit, doing all that stuff. But yeah, the ninja training kind of stopped for quite a while. I do pull-ups once in a while, and it's still fun to do, but when your shoulders are jacked up and trying to do something that requires that, it's tough.
Well, I have to imagine what hopefully doesn't get lost in translation. Here you are as this endurance and crossing over with some speed, middle distance skating to becoming like a gymnast. How did that all come about? Where did that background come from?
Yeah, that's it wasn't good. Trying to do, you have heavy legs as it is, and then you try to do pull-ups. I could probably do 2 or 3 when I first started. Like, okay, let's try to get in shape for this. And But if we reverse the clock, I took my boy to the ninja gym and we met Jamie Ron, one of the ninjas on the show who has the green hair, Captain NBC. I saw him and he had a hole in his shoe. I was like, dude, I can make you some shoes, man. Let me try to make you some shoes. He's like, yeah, that's great. He came over, I molded him up, started making, custom ninja shoes for a couple athletes. But with doing that, I started to see what they do for training and started to go to the gym more often. And that's when I was like, okay, I can't just go do ninja. I got to get in shape. I got to get in, physical upper body shape. So I started doing more pull-ups and transforming my basement into, I put a rock climbing wall in,
Oh, cool.
and I don't know what I'm doing, but I put a rock climbing wall in, and then I put up a couple bars and a couple things to grab onto, and I just slowly started building ninja obstacles that were at the gym, and yeah, started getting shape and definitely started getting a lot easier. But still, I'm carrying around so much extra weight in my legs, and if I was still skating from time to time, it wasn't. It was definitely not going away. So I was probably carrying another 8 to 10 pounds in my legs alone. So it makes it hard to hold yourself in a lock off position.
So Casey, what motivates you to keep giving yourself all these challenges? What is it in within you that you love these different athletic challenges?
I think it's more keeping goals, and what I've found is if you don't have goals, you have a hard time in life. You know, you retire from your job. What do you do? I mean, that's all you've done for that long. It's like, what do you do? Oh, do I keep working in this field or that field, or do I go in a different direction, or do I just sit on the couch? You know, you see people retire and then they die. It's a weird thing that happens. Whereas myself, I was an athlete when I was a kid. Then I was not an athlete for a few years, and then I started being an athlete again. Then I was pro, and then I became an Olympian, and just continued to compete. And then even when I was done speed skating, I was owning a bike shop and I'd bike race. And then I got into triathlon. And so I just kind of kept moving around in sport, learning and having fun doing stuff, and never really stopped. I mean, I can't say that I was always serious because I wasn't. Um, but I know that when I don't have goals to do something, you get off track, and then when with family and life and work and that becomes a big challenge. But I really do think that I have um some sort of mental issue with being an athlete. Like, it's hard to stop. It's hard to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to just quit everything and do nothing. I don't know. There's something in me that, the ninja thing is great. It's fun. It's something different. I thought it was something where I wouldn't get so tired, and you don't. It's not like you're out there skating a 5K where you have to think technique every single, you're on an obstacle, you get off, you go to the next obstacle. You can take a break if you want. If you're trying to go for time, if you're one of the best guys, not me, you fly through the course. Me, I'm just doing obstacles one at a time, see if I can get through them. And I wanted to do something where I wasn't getting super, super tired, but little unbeknownst to me, when I'm checking my heart rate just last night at training, I'm like, whoa, 170. And I'm just on obstacles. I'm not out running. I'm not out doing, I mean, you're just on obstacles doing things going, wow. It's amazing how, but again, you're not out there struggling for 2 hours. It's 15, 20 seconds on an obstacle, then you're off, and then you're moving to the next one. So, yeah, goals, keeping them, making sure that you're keeping busy is something that I try to emphasize for myself. Just keep moving.
Throughout your athletic career, and you sort of alluded to the fact that um, staying focused is important to you, having goals, but you also strike me as somebody that also knows when to take the gas off the pedal for a bit. You've had breaks, and like you had mentioned in your athletic career, throughout training and so forth. have you had teammates, things that are memorable that sort of cut the tension, or were you a practical jokester? Did you? I mean, was that a team thing? Were there a few of you that did that to kind of, break up all the punishing of your bodies? Like, tell me a little bit about how that may have sustained you through any of your trials and tribulations with all the endurance training that you had to put yourself through.
Yeah, it just depends on the training. A lot of times when you're out there on the bike struggling on your own, I mean, you're with the group and then the group splits up and then you're all, solo doing a time trial up a mountain. But then you're doing dry land, you're doing weights, you're doing stuff. Weight training is still it's pretty focused. You're trying to get the most out of it. But then when we do dry land training, I mean, you're standing around, a little bit as well. And that's when the jokes come out. And I was the guy who was making everybody laugh, doing stuff. And then like our program director was like, I can't believe how you are. Like you can be joking and then within 5 seconds be the most focused person. And I go, yeah, because I like to have fun and I know the work that needs to be done and I'm doing it the best I can. And I don't, I never cut corners or anything like that. But he's like, yeah, it's just amazing the focus that you can switch in a split second. And I go, well, that comes from pack style racing. You have to be able to, in 1 second everything's fine. Next second you're fighting somebody, and then you're yelling at somebody or you're making a joke at somebody, whatever. It's more, but yeah, I was the guy who would pull your pants down, push you over, and then 10 seconds later, we're all laughing and then jumping as high as you can, doing exercises. But a lot of that came from most of my team from 1994 to 1998 was my inline speed skating team. You had John Intravina, Jen Rodriguez, Derek Para. I might be forgetting somebody, but we were on the rollerblade team together, and that was when inline skaters were coming over, and we were training together for those 4 years. And on the inline circuit, we would just always have fun because it's
Mhm.
not, speed skating is a very focused, intense sport because it's you against you and the clock. And there's nothing else nothing gets in your way. But in inline skating, you have a plan, the gun goes off, you have, 30 kilometers to mess around and see how your body's feeling. And then you get serious towards the end and try to win a race. And then after the race, you're joking around, you're going out to dinner, you're doing other things. Where on the ice, it was a lot more serious. But when these inline skaters came over to the ice, there was a couple of us. One of my great friends, Dave Tamburino, he came from the ice. It was hard because you had some of these inline skaters like myself come over and kind of take spaces from these ice skaters. But Tambo and some other, Chris Whitty, a lot of us, and Tim Hoffman. Now there's a picture of all of us in Colorado. I think it was in Milwaukee. It's just a great headshot of all of us, and we're all laughing. And that was my favorite team of all time, of the whole time I skated, just because there was like no animosity, no I don't know. It was just fantastic. We all joked around, got along, and not that people always are not getting along, but whenever there's a little tension, it sucks, and I look back at those times in 1996, 7, and 8. They were great, fantastic, and those inline skaters that came over, and Tambo and these other people that were there. It was just a great group, and we laughed, and man, we would have dinners that would take forever, just because you're in Europe and it'd take forever. For some reason, it would take like 10, 15, 20 minutes before every course would come out. You're down there for an hour and a half going, geez, just feed us, man. And but we would laugh. Oh my God, we would laugh.
That
So
sounds
yeah,
very much like the stories that I've heard with people in training on the Tour de France. Big packs of riders
yeah,
competing against each other and having these long dinners, and that wherever they're training, Belgium, wherever they are on the European circuit.
yeah.
Are there any Olympian or non-Olympian athletes, one or two in particular that you've either met or just followed their careers or just took something away that you tried to bring to your athletics?
Well, first off, Johan Olive Koss. That's the guy. I watched his video for 10 hours a day. Just that's how I learned how to speed skate. So that was somebody, regardless of his results. I didn't really know much about his results, but I knew he was the world champion at the time, and I think he won the 1500, the Olympics before. And I'm watching perfect technique, and that's what I was looking at the time. And then, his results, fantastic, unbelievable, great athlete. The things he was able to do with his skill set, amazing. Winning the 1500 meter with pretty much a flat race was kind of unheard of at the time. And then I start to learn more about the sport. I'm getting older. When I came into the Olympic stuff, I was only 23 years old. I forget. And when Hayden was skating, I was 10, and I didn't see a video of Eric skating for until the next year. Bart Veldkamp brought a video, the video of his Olympics, and I'm watching Eric skate, and I'm like, holy man, this guy is just a beast. And he skated better than everybody else, at that time. But then I'm like, well, he doesn't compare to Johan. Johan's my first guy that I saw skating. But then after I skate for a while, what Eric did, unbelievable. It's never going to happen again. You've got Jordan Stoltz right now, who is your closest guy that's going to be at, winning 500. He can win the 1500. He's not going to win a 5K. What Eric did, especially outdoors in conditions, you can't, I don't know. I mean, that's the greatest athletic thing that's ever happened. I mean, there's just so many variables that can go wrong, and he did it. So Eric is definitely the guy that, calm dude, humble. And I mean, I love the dude just because he's just so down to earth. So Johan and Eric, in that sense, are my two guys.
It's funny. It's funny you say Eric Heiden as well because I've had Wayne Stetna, who was a also a four-time Olympian. One year, one particular Olympiad, which was boycotted, so on the team but not competing. And he also gives big props to Eric Heiden, who also had a dual sport with the cycling, being on the 7-Eleven team, which was a pretty amazing thing that he was able to be at elite level with both sports. Well, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time and your train time. I know you got your competition on Monday. I wish you luck. If people want to follow along and see how you're doing, how do they channel into that?
For American Ninja Warrior, they just we're filming on Monday, but then it won't air for another, I don't know. I would assume it's going to air next spring, summer.
I see.
That's usually when they do that. But
And you'll have to
yeah,
keep a tight upper lip on that so that they can build up suspense for how everything's going to unfold.
yeah, you really can't say much,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's the thing. If you keep moving on in the competition, I mean, your friends that do ninja know, but they know you're not supposed to say
right,
anything and tell
sure,
people, and you
sure.
definitely don't post anything on social media until
Yeah.
afterwards.
Now,
Um,
now for your other pursuits, are you still you're still doing what side of your kind of other businesses are you still working with the design? So people know if they want to reach out. Is that something that's active with you?
yeah, with Rocket 7,
Yep.
absolutely. We're
And
making.
how would they reach out to you if they wanted to get involved with a design? What's
Just go to rocket7shoes.com, and you can go there. You can reach out that way, or just send me an email at service@rocket7shoes.com. And we can send all that information over. But there's a lot of information on our website on how to get started. And what we can do for you. But a lot of people don't understand, like when you're getting custom shoes, you need to have a conversation. A lot of people think, oh, I want custom shoes, but how do I go about it? It's almost like an interview process. What shoe do you need? Do you need, a full custom shoe? Do you need, just a shoe that's maybe modified for the shape of your foot? I mean, do you have arch issues? Alignment issues? So let me show you this. I think this is the coolest shoe that I've made so far. Well,
All
it's
right, let's
one of
check
the
it out.
coolest.
Let's check it out.
So I got two here. So this one, I can't see a screen on my side, but I don't know if you guys can see that.
It's perfect. Yep.
The camo is just awesome. I mean, this takes a long time.
What do you call that shoe? What do you call that shoe?
It's just our boa dial. That's it. There's nothing too special about it. And we're actually making, I think this is the coolest looking shoe. Once I got it together, I was like,
it's nice.
It's pretty awesome. So Jordan Stoltz, who I was just talking about, the speed skater who has an opportunity to win a lot of Olympic medals. So I'm in the middle of I'm almost finished making a shoe for him, but we got the Olympic rings on there.
Oh, that's sweet.
And we've got his name on the side there. So, and yep, custom dials. He's got gold dials. He's a world champion. All that stuff. Pretty dang light.
Yep.
So.
I met Nelson Vales recently, and he has this whole heated design. That's pretty tight. The bike, everything. It's cool. He's a lot of fun, and I'm sure you are as well with your co-athletes and you got kids too. Listen, let's leave it. Let's end it with this. What is the one thing, and you have kids that might be aspiring to whatever level of athletics. What's the one thing, the best piece of advice you could tell someone that's looking to go into, not necessarily the Olympics, but a high level, whatever level sport? What's the best framing advice that you could give a kid?
Enjoy what you're doing, number one. And if you're not enjoying it, figure out how to enjoy it. There's a lot of stress that comes with trying to get to that next level. And to get there, the distractions that are going to be, now with people and their phones and all these things, it's a huge, it takes away from the focus of, what you need to do. And if you're not one of those phenomenons, like these naturally strong athletes that are just picking up the sport without having to cross train, you're lucky, and those are the athletes that think they're giving something up, and they have no idea that they're not giving up anything. You're just good at what you do. Whereas the athlete that's okay at it, like I always say with speed skaters, you have good speed skaters in the United States. We have to make them great with our coaching and with our knowledge. So these kids that are coming over that want to be at a top level, what do you do? How do I get there? The biggest thing is trust your coaches. And if the coaches are steering you in the right direction, then you're going to get there quicker than trying to do everything on your own, trying to reinvent the wheel. Because I know I'm talking to my kid right now at 13 years old. I watch YouTube videos on how to skateboard, how to do an ollie, how to do a kickflip. And I send him these things, because I know he's on his phone all the time. And so I'm like, here's a tutorial on this. And the improvement that this kid has done in the last, he's not going to be pro. But he wants to do these tricks because he wants to be at the skate park doing this stuff. And the improvement just by watching some of these videos and then practicing it, it's huge, and you got someone like me who's like, I pick things apart, and I see it with my 13-year-old kid. He's trying that now. He doesn't realize it, but he's actually starting to do that and enjoying it, and skateboarding's awful because you fail 99% of the time. You're not going to hit every trick the way you think you're going to hit it, or everybody would do it all. Everybody would win golds, So these kids that are coming up now, one, have fun. Two, enjoy the ride. Trust the coaching. Listen to your coaches. Do the research. There's so much research out there that you can do on YouTube. Like, if you want to learn how to swim, there's hundreds of thousands of videos out there with different techniques, and something's going to click for you. So any kid that wants to get to that next level, one, you got to learn how to work hard and go above and beyond what you think is going to get you there. Because just doing the sport alone is not going to get you there. You always have to cross train a little bit depending on the sport. Now I come from speed skating. You don't just skate. You got to do weights. You should be biking. You should be doing these other things. But then I've seen people in the sport, they can't ride a bike. They can't dribble a basketball. They can't hit a hockey puck, but they can skate, to a gold medal at the Olympics. So there's this happy medium there. I know I got kind of off track there, but it's
No,
definitely
you're completely on track. You're a speed skater with like I said, you're like a cat with with 9 lives. I really appreciate it, Casey. It was a great
yeah.
podcast, and wish you luck. And I'm sure uh, as you conclude your American Ninja experience, you're gonna have another wave coming up off the shores. So keep going. I love
All
I
right.
love that you're continuing to challenge yourself.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it, dude.
All right.